1977 was the year Elvis left the building for good, the year punk exploded in London, and the year disco ruled American radio. But buried between the Bee Gees and the Sex Pistols were bands who captured lightning in a bottle, then disappeared before anyone could ask for an encore. Let's bring them back, starting with number 1. Number 1, Player, with Baby Come Back.
Baby, come back. Any kind of fool could see.
If you turned on any FM station in late 77 or early 78, you heard that unmistakable plea, a silky soft rock ballad drenched in Los Angeles sunshine and regret. Player was a group of session musicians who'd worked behind legends like Boz Scaggs and Cher. They knew how to craft a hit, and producer Dennis Lambert helped them shape a song that would climb all the way to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in February of 1978. The harmonies were pristine, the production immaculate, and lead singer Peter Beckett's voice carried just the right balance of vulnerability and hope. But here's the tragedy. Player released 2 more albums, scored a minor hit with This Time I'm In It For Love, and then quietly faded into the background of rock history. By the early 80s, they were a memory, relegated to oldies radio and late-night commercials for compilation albums. Number 2, Ram Jam and the thundering primal energy of Black Betty.
Oh, Black Betty, bam-a-lam, whoa, Black Betty, bam-a-lam, she really gets me high.
This wasn't your typical soft rock ballad. This was a raw garage rock reimagining of an old folk song that Lead Belly had recorded decades earlier. Ram Jam, a group of New York rockers led by guitarist Bill Bartlett, turned it into a stomping, riff-driven monster. The cowbell, the power chords, the call-and-response vocals, it all felt like a transmission from a rowdier, wilder America. Black Betty reached number 18 on the Hot 100 and became a staple of album-oriented rock stations. But Ram Jam could never replicate that magic. Their follow-up singles barely registered, and by 1979, the band had dissolved. Bill Bartlett reportedly struggled with the pressure of being a one-hit wonder, and the band's legacy became frozen in time, forever associated with that one explosive track that still shows up in movie soundtracks and sports arenas today. Number 3, Firefall, with You Are the Woman. This was country rock at its most bittersweet, a song that sounded like a Colorado sunset, all warmth and longing. Firefall was born from the ashes of the Flying Burrito Brothers and featured some seriously talented musicians, including Rick Roberts and guitarist Jock Bartley. You Are the Woman peaked at number 9 in 1976, but its airplay carried strong into 77, making it one of those songs that felt like it lived forever on FM radio. So why did Firefall vanish? Truth is, they didn't, not entirely. They released several more albums and had moderate success with Just Remember I Love You and Strange Way. But by the early 80s, changing tastes and internal tensions pulled the band apart. They became one of those groups that 70s rock fans remember fondly, but younger generations never discovered. Their music aged beautifully, though, warm, earnest, and timeless in a way that synthesizers could never replicate. Number 4, Boz Scaggs. Wait, you might say Boz wasn't a one-hit wonder. And you'd be right, sort of. But here's the thing. In 1977, Boz Scaggs released Lido Shuffle and We're All Alone. Riding high on the success of his Silk Degrees album, that record made him a household name. But after 77, Boz largely retreated from the mainstream. He released Down To, Then Left, and Middleman. But by the mid-80s, he'd stepped away from the spotlight, choosing a quieter life over the grind of constant touring and radio chasing. For most casual fans, Boz Scaggs is frozen in 1976 and 77, a smooth, soulful voice soundtracking late-night drives in dim-lit living rooms. He didn't vanish entirely, but he became a legend of a specific moment, a snapshot of West Coast sophistication that belonged to the disco rock fusion of the late 70s. If you're loving this trip through forgotten records, hit subscribe. We've got more stories from rock's golden age coming every week. Number 5, Wild Cherry. And the funk rock explosion of Play That Funky Music. This song was everywhere in 1976 and 77, a white rock band from Ohio who decided to embrace funk after a club audience demanded they play something with more groove. The result was a number 1 smash that sold over 2 million copies and became a cultural touchstone. Lead singer Rob Parisi wrote the song after reportedly being told by a black audience member to play that funky music, white boy. It was cheeky, infectious, and impossible to resist. But Wild Cherry could never escape that song's shadow. Their follow-up, Baby Don't You Know, barely cracked the top 40, and by 1979 the band had broken up. Parisi tried to keep the name alive with new lineups, but the magic was gone. Wild Cherry became a cautionary tale, proof that sometimes one perfect song is all you get, and trying to catch lightning twice only leaves you burned. Number 6, Alan O'Day, with Undercover Angel. This was pure pop confection, a song about a dream lover that felt like it was written for AM radio's golden hour. Alan O'Day was a songwriter first, having penned hits for Helen Reddy and others. But in 1977, he stepped into the spotlight himself with Undercover Angel, and it soared to number 1 in July. The song had a playful, almost childlike innocence, the kind of track that made you smile even if you couldn't quite explain why. O'Day released follow-up singles including Started Out Dancing, Ended Up Making Love, but none matched the success of Undercover Angel. By the 80s, he'd returned to songwriting behind the scenes, crafting jingles and TV theme songs. His brief moment in the sun was sweet and uncomplicated, a reminder that not every artist needs a decades-long career to leave a mark. Number 7, Heatwave, and the disco-funk groove of Boogie Nights. This British-American band brought a sophisticated cinematic energy to the dance floor. Led by keyboardist Rod Temperton, who would later write Thriller for Michael Jackson, Heatwave crafted songs that felt both futuristic and deeply soulful. Boogie Nights peaked at number 2 in 1977, and Always and Forever became a slow dance staple. But tragedy struck when guitarist Jesse Witten was stabbed to death in 1978, and Temperton left to focus on songwriting. The band continued in various forms, but they never recaptured the magic of those first 2 hits. Critics noted that Heatwave had the talent and vision to be giants, but fate intervened. They remain a bittersweet footnote in disco history, a band that burned bright, then flickered out just as they were finding their sound. Number 8, Emotions, with Best of My Love. This wasn't rock, this was pure soaring disco soul, and it dominated 1977. The Emotions were a trio of sisters from Chicago who'd been recording since the 60s, but it took producer Maurice White of Earth, Wind & Fire to unlock their full potential. Best of My Love spent 5 weeks at number 1, and the harmonies were so tight, so joyful, that even rock fans couldn't resist. So why did they vanish? The Emotions released more albums, but the disco backlash of the early 80s buried them along with countless other acts. By the mid-80s, they were back on the oldies circuit, remembered for one glorious summer when their voices seemed to lift the entire country. That song still sounds like pure happiness, a time capsule of mirror balls and endless possibility. Number 9, Foreigner. Now hold on, Foreigner had a long, successful career, right? Absolutely. But here's the twist. In 1977, they were brand new, and Feels Like the First Time was their debut single. That song introduced the world to Mick Jones's riffs and Lou Gramm's powerhouse vocals, and it felt like a shot of adrenaline straight into rock radio's veins. For many fans, especially those who drifted away from rock in the 80s, Foreigner is forever tied to that first album, that first rush of discovery. They didn't vanish, but for a certain generation, they're frozen in 1977, representing the last gasp of guitar-driven rock before synthesizers took over. In that sense, they belong on this list, a band whose legend was forged in a single year, even if their career stretched far beyond it. Number 10, Hot Chocolate, with So You Win Again.
So you win again. You win again.
This British band had been churning out hits since the early 70s, but So You Win Again was their biggest moment, a lush, string-drenched ballad that captured the ache of losing someone you couldn't stop loving. It went to number 1 in the UK and top 10 in the US, and lead singer Errol Brown's voice carried a warmth that felt like a hug from an old friend. But by the early 80s, changing tastes pushed Hot Chocolate off the charts. They kept recording, kept touring, but radio moved on. Errol Brown passed away in 2015, and with him went one of the most underrated voices in pop history. So You Win Again remains a perfect encapsulation of 70s soul pop, elegant, emotional, and effortlessly timeless. 1977 gave us Star Wars, Saturday Night Fever, and the death of Elvis Presley. But it also gave us these 10 bands, acts that burned bright, left their mark, and then slipped quietly into the background. Some faded by choice, others by circumstance, and a few were simply victims of an industry that demanded constant reinvention. But every one of these songs still sounds vital, still carries the DNA of an era when radio was wild and unpredictable, when a single hit could change your life overnight. These weren't failures, they were lightning strikes, captured on vinyl and pressed into history. We may never hear from them again, but their music endures, waiting for anyone willing to drop the needle and listen. And that's the magic of rock and roll. It never really disappears. It just waits for someone to remember. Which song hit you hardest today? Drop your memories in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from the decades that changed music forever.